Throughout history, people have died in all sorts of horrifying ways. Some were tragic, some were bizarre, and a select few were downright disgusting. But what if I told you that in 1184, an important meeting of nobles ended with dozens of powerful men drowning in a cesspit? That's right. Human waste became their final resting place. And that's just one of the most revolting ways people have met their end. Let's explore the grossest deaths history has to offer, if you can stomach it. Our story begins in medieval Erfurt, Germany, a city known for its wealthy merchants and grand cathedrals. On July 26, 1184, a group of high-ranking nobles gathered in a meeting hall at St. Peter's Church. The occasion? An attempt to resolve a bitter feud between Ludwig III, the Landgrave of Thuringia, and his rival, Archbishop Conrad of Mainz. These two men were among the most powerful figures in the Holy Roman Empire, and their feud had already caused violent skirmishes, disrupted trade routes, and thrown the region into chaos. Emperor Frederick Barbarossa himself had ordered them to settle their differences. Tensions were running high as both men arrived with entourages of heavily armored knights and loyal nobles. The arguments began almost immediately, with each side hurling accusations of greed, treachery, and disloyalty to the empire. The shouting grew louder, and as the crowded room filled with the clanking of armor and the weight of egos, no one noticed the danger beneath their feet. What the nobles didn't realize was that the meeting hall had been constructed over a massive latrine cesspit, a medieval sewer filled with years of human waste. The wooden floor, weakened by age and never designed to bear the combined weight of dozens of armored men, finally gave way. In an instant, the room collapsed, and nobles, knights, and furniture plummeted into the filth below. Dozens of men, weighed down by their armor, struggled to climb out, but drowned in the cesspit's muck. The stench was unbearable, and the horror of the scene left many survivors traumatized for life. Despite this catastrophe, the feud between Ludwig and Conrad remained unresolved, and the Erfurt Latrine Disaster became infamous as one of history's most humiliating mass fatalities, a grim testament to medieval engineering. But this wasn't the only revolting way someone met their end. Consider George Plantagenet, Duke of Clarence, an English noble convicted of treason in 1478. As part of his royal privilege, he was allowed to choose his method of execution. His choice? Drowning in a barrel of wine. While it may have been an elegant vintage, it was hardly the kind of a last drink most of us would imagine. Then there's Hans Steininger, an Austrian man famous in the 1500s for having the longest beard in the world, measuring over 4 feet. His pride literally became his downfall in 1567 when a fire broke out in his village. While fleeing, Hans tripped over his own beard, fell, and broke his neck. Today, his beard is preserved in a museum, a macabre reminder of his unusual death. And who could forget Marcus Crassus, one of the richest men in Roman history? During a failed military campaign against the Parthians in 53 BCE, Crassus was captured and met a grisly end that mocked his greed. To humiliate him, his captors poured molten gold down his throat, a death as ironic as it was horrifying. The Erfurt Latrine Disaster and these other grim tales reveal just how strange and chaotic history can be. From drowning in wine, to tripping over a beard, to being consumed by a cesspit, these stories remind us that while death is inevitable, sometimes it's also unbelievably disgusting.